The concept of PvP in the tower defense genre is not something new. PvZ had it in the original console port, Tower Battles has it, and now TDS, though we all know how that ended up. I know John mentioned, perhaps as a joke, in a message that PvP might come in a few years, or who knows, maybe it's even been cancelled. But here's my take on how PvP could work in TDX. Before I start explaining how PvP should work in TDX, I first want to share my vision for the game mode. First of all, I believe that PvP should be locked behind at least level 50. This way, players will already have access to some strong towers. Secondly, I envision PvP with only a specific set of towers, which I'll show later. For now, I'll just say that Golden Towers, Event Towers, and Nightmare Towers will be completely banned from PvP. Thirdly, my vision for PvP is strictly 1v1, so that things can be balanced more easily, as I'll explain later on. Now, let's move on to how players can send enemy troops. Every player will have access to a new game mode, separate from Expert, Elite, or other modes. It will have 30 waves, including both bosses and mini-bosses. Here's how the battles will work. In this new shop section, you'll be able to buy packs of enemies. These range from revived GDA troops to full-on attackers or air support. The first section will represent factions controlled by Dr. Xenon, enemies we already see across the main game modes. The second row of enemy packs will feature event enemies, some still under Xenon's command, while others belong to different factions. Each faction will have a set of normal enemies, special units, a mini-boss, and a main boss. Enemies unlock gradually as you progress through a match. They will each have a price and a limit on how many you can send. This way, you'll not only have to defend against the standard PvP enemies but also against the ones sent specifically to attack your base. And that's how you'll be able to buy enemy faction packs. Now, let's get into how loadouts will be chosen. Now, let's talk about loadouts. At the start, on the left side of the screen, players will be able to see which factions they'll be facing and which faction they've selected. These are equipped before entering the match and become locked once the game begins. Players will also be able to view the enemies they'll be up against by clicking on the icon of the selected faction. After 1 minute of prep time, players can start equipping their towers and power-ups. Let's start with power-ups. Only weaker ones can be used in this game mode, such as Cash Crate, Healing Field, Recon Drone, Health Crate, Airstrike, and A-10. Each of these can only be used once per match. Next, you can start equipping towers. Just like in a normal match, you can bring up to 6 towers. The total loadout prep time is limited to 2 minutes. Now that the loadout system is explained, let's move on to the list of towers that can be used in PvP. As you can see, many of the gold purchasable towers are available here, but some are excluded, such as Combat Drone and Helicopter, which I believe are far too strong for this mode. XWM, with its ability to rebuild, would completely break the meta. However, I do think the warship should be included, since many factions will be able to damage it effectively. Now, regarding tower balancing, I want to note that placement limits will be changed for many towers, especially spawner towers. They will have a limit of 2 placements, since stacking too many could make them overpowered. The warship will have a placement limit of 1. Now that we've discussed how loadouts work and how towers will be balanced, let's move on to how a match will actually look. This is how the loadout will look in the game. You'll have 10 enemies that you can send, which will be unlocked progressively throughout the waves. Each enemy will have a cost to send and its own individual limit. As you can see, there's also an overall send limit of 40, so players can't just spam stronger enemies all match until they overwhelm their opponent. Additionally, enemies will only be sent out when the next wave starts, with a 1-second interval before they spawn. The first enemy that can be sent will be unlocked at wave 3, once every player has at least 1 tower placed that they can defend with. Every enemy you send will give cash to your opponent, so sending is also risky. You can't just flood the map with hordes and hope to win, because your enemy will profit from your attacks. Enemies will also scale by 2% per wave in both health and damage, allowing them to keep up with the pacing of the match. After wave 30, the final standard wave of the mode, there will be a special wave 31, where a mass spawn of Endbringers will occur, similar to tower battles. During this phase, you'll be able to send enemies freely, and the player who survives the longest in this final, last stand, wave wins the match. Now, for rewards, I was thinking of gold, XP, and maybe a few crystals for the last stand wave. This PvP mode shouldn't give out any special currency or anything like that, it should just be there for fun and to test your skills. Maybe a counter for wins and losses could also be shown on the player's profile. Anyway, that's the PvP concept I've been cooking up. I know it's not the greatest and there's a lot that could be improved, but this is what I came up with. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you soon. Bye bye.